Long before she became the wife of the powerful Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Princess Haya bint Al-Hussein had given her heart to a completely different man. He wasn't a oil magnate, nor the ruler of a futuristic metropolis like Dubai. He was a young man who, despite his presidential lineage, exuded simplicity, a passion for horse riding, and dreams of transformation. His name was Bashar al-Assad, and with him, Haya touched the possibility of a completely different life, a life that fate violently snatched from her grasp. It was the 1919, Haya, a teenager of barely 18, already dazzled with her strong character and skill on horseback. In 1992, she became the first woman to represent Jordan in a Pan-Arab equestrian competition. The tournament was held in Damascus, and it was there, amid applause, sweaty horse, and shining trophies, that she first saw him, Bashar al-Assad, the eldest son of Syrian President Hafez al-Assad, heir to power, and himself a passionate lover of the sport. Love struck immediately. Despite the age difference, she was 18, he was 30, they quickly recognized each other, as if something stronger than themselves united them. Perhaps it was their shared love of horse, or the silent weight of expectation on their shoulders, but came from worlds bordered with responsibility, lineage, and constant vigilance. But between them there was freedom, louder conspiratorial glance, a humanity that cameras and palace rarely allow. They began to see each other frequently. Their love grew secretly, but also firmly. Haya found in Bashar a partner who listened to her, who didn't treat her as a decorative piece, but as an equal. He saw in her a brave, cultured, committed woman. Together, they dreamed of a fire, more open, more modern Syria. They dreamed of a family, of course in the garden, and children running around without fear. In a world ruled by appearance, they were building something authentic. But that pure and vibrant love was uncomfortable. King Hussein, Haya's father, never approved, not because Bashar wasn't worldly, but because politics contaminates everything. Jordan's Hashemite royal family, direct descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, considered the Assad to be sea of lesser status. Love wasn't enough for them, they wanted a strategic alliance, dynasty that shone inequality. And Syria, despite its power, didn't offer the lineage Haya deserved. Still, they carried on. For years, they floated protocol. They lived a love that one called theirs, not even history. But tragedy is unforgiven. In 1994, everything came crashing down. Bashar was driving to Damascus airport in his Mercedes when, in dense fog, he lost control of the vehicle. He died instantly. He was just 31 years old. Some said it was an accident, others a conspiracy. He had dismantled corruption networks. He had touched untouchable interest. Perhaps they silenced him. We'll never know. For Haya, the blow was devastating. She didn't just lose the love of her life, she lost her future, the possibility of a shared life, a home, but destiny intervened with that of a country he dreamed of transforming. For years, she remained alone, silent. She had wealth, titles, admiration, but her heart had remained with a man who was no longer there. 10 years later, the world saw her dressed in white again, this time to marry Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. It was an onion step test in strategy, an alliance to strengthen Jordan's position in the Arab political arena. With him, she had 2 children, and although on the outside everything seemed perfect, mansions, jewels, protocol. On the inside, the wood remained open, because no opulence can compete with the memory of true love. But if Haya's life was difficult, Syria's was even more so, because with Bashar's death, a hope also died. Bashar wasn't just a son of power, he was a reformer, a man who fought corruption from a young age. He destroyed smuggling networks that enriched officials. He championed a modern Syria, connected to the world, where power served the people, not the other way around. He was educated in London, trained militarily, and understood both the ways of the East and the logic of the West. He had the temperament of the leader the country needed. His people admired him, and many saw him as the only one capable of breaking away from the vision he inherited from his father. But Bashar died, and in his place was Bashar. If you've made it this far, don't forget to support this content with a like and subscribe. It helps us tremendously continue telling these forgotten stories. Bashar al-Assad, his younger brother, was never prepared to lead. He studied ophthalmology in London. He dreamed of being a doctor, not a president, but the tragic boy dragged him back to Syria. With no political or military experience, he assumed power, and although for a moment it seemed that change was possible, his role soon became an extension, even an exaggeration. of the wars of the past. Where Bashar dreamed of reform, Bashar imposed control. Where one believed in opens, the other chose repression. The result? 2 decades of censorships, fear, conflict, and bloodshed. A civil war that left hundreds of thousands dead, millions displaced, and entered cities in ruins, and the people drowned in broken promise and bullets. Today, Bashar has fled. The regime that controlled Syria for more than half a century has collapsed, and as the country tries to rebuild from the ashes, one question remains, a persistent whisper. What would have become of Syria if Bashar hadn't died? What if Princess Haya had been his wife, the first lady of a nation hungry for justice? We may never know, but there are reasons to believe everything would have turned out differently. Basel, with her strong character and vision of modernity, had the ability to transform the country from its roots. Haya, with her international connections, her intelligence and sensitivity, could have played a fundamental role in women's rights, education, and economic development. Together, they were a duo with the power to break the mold. She wouldn't have lived surrounded by the artificial luxury of Dubai, with its illuminated skyscrapers and lavish parties. Instead, her life would have been marked by the simplicity of a home with the man she truly loved. Perhaps there wouldn't have been mansions or Persian carpets, but there would have been something far more valuable: closeness, sincere companionship, and mutual support. Only that proximity, that deep connection, would have changed the course of her existence and, consequently, the fate of an entire nation, because it's not always major political decisions or international tragedies that shape a country's future, but sometimes those intimate moments that occur far from the cameras, in place as simply as a ringing arena, where 2 souls meet and decide to fight together against the rules imposed by power and tradition. In a region like the Arab world, where history is marked by centuries of authoritarianism, internal strife, and rigid social structures, a different story was urgently needed, a history that showed that change is possible, that love and hope can breach the walls of control and oppression. The relationship between Princess Haya and Bashar al-Assad was more than a romance. It was a symbol of an alternative, of a path that could have led to a different Syria, although that path never materialized. That Israel live on in the memories of those who witnessed that true love, that silent struggle between 2 people who defied their own families and systems to be together. The what-if question then becomes an open question with no definitive answer, but one that invites profound reflection. How would Syria have changed if Basel, with his reformist vision and commitment to change, had Haya, a woman intelligence, strength, and international connection, at his side? What would history have been like if love had triumphed over politics and tragedy? Perhaps, instead of wars and destruction, we would have seen a country on the path toward reconciliation, development, and social justice. However, reality is different, and time cannot turn back. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you were moved by this story, leave us a comment and share this video. See you in the next story.